Are you ready for the rebirth of Venus in the heart of the sun? Because it's coming on June the 4th, and we haven't seen this rebirth in Gemini for 4 years. Yes, every 4 years she goes into the heart of the sun in the sign of Gemini since 1965, and we get a new version of her in the world and in our own lives. This rebirth of Venus is at 14 degrees of Gemini. She's going to become born into her evening star, which brings peace, harmony, goodness, and more delightful energy to all of us, whereas she has been for the 9 months prior, the morning star, and that's where she's got a lot more aggression, including a bit of a warrior temperament. So we're going to talk about how her birth is an evening star coming into our world right now, and where she can help us all when it comes to things to do with more harmony, more love, more peace, more delight, more goodness in each of our worlds. Now, we're listening today for how this impacts you, not just on June the 4th, rather in the 9 months that follow until in the month of March, when she's going to be born again in another iteration as the warrior star in the sign of Aries. Woo! So we have to keep in mind that this is going to influence us most directly and acutely in the 9 months that follow the star point on June the 4th at 14 degrees of Gemini. And also, in a way, she doesn't reset in the Gemini part of your sky for another 4 years. And you must keep that in mind as well. It's both a short-term runway, red carpet rollout through to, next March. And it's also a longer story of how this is about the next 4 years of your life. Let's get talking about this. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Lori Lothian. I'm using the Western Tropical Zodiac, the whole sign house system. I love the fixed stars and minor asteroids. So stick around, give me a try. This is a deep dive video, by the way. Hit the like button, subscribe. It's a deep dive video because this is a very big topic. So I hope you can get a cup of cocoa, hot cocoa, some tea, glass of wine, a beer, whatever, settle in, maybe take some notes to look at the cycles for your life that I'm about to let you know about so you can compare to the past. I love looking at what was so we can look at what might be, what might become, because we know how to compare from the past to the present. It says I have 2 participants in this room, and I do not. So I'm just going to pretend, oh, it's my Fathom note taker. God knows why that's here today. I don't know if you guys can see it. But anyway, first of all, we're going to really roll into the history first, okay, of Venus star points. And when we get to your personal sign, then you can listen for your sun sign. That's going to be a career and purpose, moon sign, your home and nest, and also body. But your rising sign ostensibly, most likely, influences you the most and is all about you at the time of birth, at the latitude of birth, with the tropical Western zodiac sign lined up to the horizon line. That is called your rising or ascendant sign. So we're going to start off by talking about historical matters connected to the idea of what Venus does in Gemini and in Gemini star points historically. Now, first of all, here's an interesting food for thought, okay? And I will get to your sign, but we're going with a big understanding first. It was in 1965 that Venus began to create a conjunction with the sun at the highest degree, 29 degrees of Gemini. And since 1965, all the way through to 2073, which, by the way, turns out to be 108 conjunctions, and that is the number of beads on a prayer mala, and it happens to be a very sacred number in a lot of traditions. Just a curiosity, right? But it's also, you have to note that it is since 1965 that American presidents have been elected under the energy of the 9 months that follows the June Venus star point in Gemini. It's no surprise that Donald Trump is a Gemini sun, and he was elected during Venus star points in the sign of Gemini. In her book by I love Ariel Gutman, Venus Star Rising by Ariel Gutman, who pioneered the Venus star point concept, which we'll get into. She points out that the quality of presidents elected prior to that time, historically, were Cancer presidents, Venus star pointing in the sign of Cancer. And those star points or conjunctions occurred between 1852 and 1961. And then we moved in to 1965 with the new Venus star point energy. When you think about Camelot, Jackie O, JFK, you think about Mercury and the energy of sociability, of popularity, of play. You think about, because this is Mercury's place, Gemini, you think about things to do with communications, about youth. Youth is Gemini. And I find that fascinating because it was in 1961, the last star point happened in Cancer, the bridge between the presidency of JFK and the 1965 star point. And so it's literally, we began to see the flavor of what was meant to happen, the new, younger, more playful, more communicative presidents, and yes, we've had some old guys in there for sure. But you can go with like the Clinton era, Al Gore, that kind of thing. Now, one thing I want to say is also Gemini is about the power of communication and the ability to debate and to speak. And there became a premium on the power of a candidate for the presidency and the president to be really good at speaking, at debating, eventually at social media, at being on TV. And that's another energy that began in the 60s, especially with JFK, who used the media and screen time and airtime and interview time to his advantage. A lot of people look at Donald Trump's run up to his first win and say that he actually won just by airtime. The press gave him so much advertising for free by having him in all of their shows because it was just this flabbergasting idea that an outsider from Washington who happened to be a businessman, failed or not, and a TV reality show star was running for president. Keep that in mind. Hillary Clinton, who lost against Trump in the 2016 election, was not really good at this, being on talk shows and charming and captivating people. It wasn't one of her skill sets. And you could argue that Bill was great at it, and thus Bill won the election. Obama was fantastic at it. He won the election. Now, one thing I will say is it's not just about Gemini sociability and charm and debate and communication and all these kinds of elements we normally think about. Let's talk about what Gemini means. And by the way, the Cancer presidents that came from 1852 to 1961, they would be more about home and safety and nest and the mother instinct and even protective like a crab, but let's all stay here. Made in America is very Cancer, but more than that, it's sort of like the United States was resistant to get pulled into World War II, right? Those are presidents that were happening in the 30s and 40s because it was an isolationist protect the nest strategy that the presidents were bringing into reality for the Cancer presidents of 1852 to 1961. And of course that includes well, I'm not going to go back to history. So back to Gemini. What is Gemini? Does anybody know? If you know in the comments, what is Gemini about? You can comment in the real-time live premiere with me if you know. What does Gemini represent? And if you're just listening, I'm going to drop the answer. It's the twins. It's literally the immortal and mortal twins, the twin sons of Zeus. In the ancient world, they were called the use of Zeus, okay, in the ancient mythology. Now, Pollux was the immortal twin and Castor, his brother, was the mortal. Twins and brothers. The difference was they had two fathers. That's why one was immortal. Zeus had a woman, his wife Leda, or the one who gave birth to the twins, because Zeus had many different women whom he impregnated. So we have Leda, and Leda ends up having two guys sleep with her the same night, Zeus and the king of Sparta. This is Sparta. So what happens is two men fertilize her, and she gets two babies from two different men. And this is what can actually happen, I believe. So we end up, it happens in animals anyway. So we end up with two fraternal twins. They are not from the same egg that split, but they were in her womb together. So what are twins in our modern world? What represents twinage, right? First of all, when there's war and it's a civil war, it's a war in the family. It's a war among brothers. It's a war among neighbors. So civil wars are very Gemini energetically. Secondly, the twins can represent the idea of brothers and neighbors. And so when we look at like Russia, Ukraine, you'll look at that. You can go, well, they're neighbors, and to some degree, they're brothers. They have some Russians in Ukraine. They always have, and there's history there. And when we look at the Middle East and we see the war there between the Israeli nation and the Palestinian peoples, we're also going to be able to compare that to the idea of war among neighbors or war among brothers. So in a sense, what I'm trying to say is that when we see Venus star pointing in Gemini in her morning star, which is her softer energy, we may see something emerge from this. It looks like a relief from war. Now, one thing I will say is that the twins were known to be the patrons of the Roman knights. They were involved in a lot of war and martial ceremonies. They were connected to the horses, the cavalry. So and one of them's dad was the king of Sparta. So in essence, there's something about the twins that's automatically embedded within the cult of war, the cult of fighting, the cult of knights, the cult of cavalry, etc. So it's already embedded even in the ancient Roman and Greek mythology. So it's there. It has more to do with what two brothers can do together. Yes, you can go Cain and Abel. Why the hell not? Just think about the stories in the world, the mythological tales of brothers. Now, there is a sense here. I'm going to tell you about the Venus star point history. Grab a pen, grab a paper, grab something anyway, so you can write this down. When Venus goes into the heart of the sun, Venus will go into the heart of the sun. Is my hair in my face in a weird way? This note taker completely takes my face off the screen. All I see is Fathom Note Taker. I'm hoping I'm actually showing up here. I have no idea why it's doing that. So US presidents. Oh no, that's not what I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about the cycle of Mercury, Venus and the sun star pointing. Right now, we're going through a cycle where she star points in Aries, and then she star points 9 months later in Capricorn, and then she starts star points 9 months later in Libra, and then in Leo, and then in Gemini. Now, technically, Libra is brand new. October 22nd, 2022, at 29 Libra, Venus did her first star point since the late 1800s. And so it's back again. She will star point in Scorpio in October 2026. But then after that star point, 4 years later, it's nothing but Libra. And if Venus can star point over and over again in Libra, the sign of treaties, justice, and peace, fairness and balance and harmony, her home kingdom, we might have hope in the world for things to begin to straighten out, especially after 2030 fall star point, when she begins a full-time occupation of Libra. Now, the thing is that we're also running out on Aries. Venus is in her detriment in Aries, the sign of soldiers in war. She's going to finish her last star point there in 2037, never to be seen again in our lifetimes. And she will slip back into the sign of her exaltation, Pisces. So after 2037, we begin to see Venus star pointing in Libra, her home kingdom, and Pisces, a place of her exaltation. And the woes that ail the world when it comes to peace, justice, fairness, kindness, friendliness, goodness can begin, I hope, to unfold and unravel. The woes can unravel, and there's some hope in the bottom of our box. So Venus would have star pointed in June back 4 years ago, 2020. And so in 2020, her star point was as the warrior morning star. I really want to emphasize the morning star nature of Venus. She has been in a warring mood. Babylonian astrologer, the morning star, when you see her in the morning sky instead of the evening sky, that literally is a sign of the temperament of Venus, the goddess of war and the victory in war, her Athenian nature. So we can see that obviously since she star pointed in 2020 at 13 degrees of Gemini, and by the way, it goes retrograde, right? She started off at 29 degrees in 1965, and she's moving down, 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 down. It wobbles a bit, because it's at 14 and a half degrees now, but it was at 13 degrees in 2020. Now, Venus star pointing in 2020 at 4 years, right? Because it's an overarching influence until her next star point, which is now, and she's going to create a more peaceful version of reality in the sign of the brothers, the sign of the neighbors. What kinds of conflicts have we seen? Civil wars, warring neighbors, like literally, I mean neighbors beside each other, right? Well, we've seen Ukraine, Russia. We've seen Gaza, Israel. Israel is a Libra rising ruled by Venus. So this is a nation that really needs Venus to get into her evening star mode yesterday already. And of course, there's tons of civil wars all over the place. I believe there's a civil war in in the Sudan, if I remember correctly, and people are going to starve because of it. So this kind of energy has been playing out dramatically for the world. And don't forget, we will get to your sign. If you want to jump ahead, hit the timestamps in the description box below, or hit the chapters on the comments section, because I'm just saying it's why go, you could go to your sign, but why not understand what this is all about, what it really means? Who are some people who, and then go back in time, please, to her earlier star point in 2016, evening star, the soft, demure evening star at 16 degrees of Gemini. Now, it's interesting because in 2016, as she became an evening star Venus, that was the year that Donald Trump won the United States election. When did he lose it? 2020, when she was in her morning star during the fall of 2020 election. So obviously an evening star version of Venus favors Donald Trump. We are all born with Venus in our natal chart as an evening star or a morning star. And you may relate to her much better when you are encountering her in the condition she existed in when you were born. Indeed, Donald Trump has his Venus in the sky as a quite visible evening star in the sign of Cancer. And I find that fascinating because basically in the year he lost the election, not only was Venus in the sign of Gemini at 13 degrees, which could have favored him, but invisible and becoming the warrior morning star. But at the same time, Mercury, the Lord of the sign, Gemini, Mercury was sitting in the sign of Cancer, squaring Chiron, the wounded one. And Trump was wounded in that election. Back in 2016, when the evening star version of her was born in June and then unfolded into the election, Mercury was also not in the sign of Gemini, but where was Mercury? He was in the sign of Taurus. And why are we talking about where Mercury lives? Does anybody know? Does anybody have a thought about that? We're talking about where Mercury lives for the simple reason that Mercury is the domicile lord of where Venus is. And I did some research, and since 1965, every single Venus star point in the sign of Gemini, except for 2016 and 2020, the election years of 2016 and 20, Venus was home in her domicile. So back in 2016, Mercury was sitting in the sign of Taurus while Venus was becoming born again in the sign next door, Gemini. So with Donald Trump's natal chart, he did win the election at that time. Is there a reason that could have worked for him? Because I think that this Venus star point this time will favor him in the USA election. And people ask me to comment on that, and that's my take on it. In 2016's election, on the Venus star point that began the cycle of that election year, what we had happening was the star point at 16 degrees of Gemini. And where was Lord Mercury at the time? But 2 degrees away, or almost a degree and a half from a perfect conjunction to Donald Trump's midheaven. And to me, that was the winning ticket. As don't forget, I'll show you the picture of the screen. It might be useful for you. We're not doing election astrology. I'm going to have a big video series this summer about the elections, but I want you to see this yourself. This is indeed Donald Trump's chart in the middle. And here we have Mercury. Maybe I should annotate for some of you who are interested, on his midheaven, going direct after some long retrogradation as Lord of, or domicile, controller of Venus conjunct the Sun at 16 degrees of Gemini, where pretty close to Donald Trump's Sun for leadership, North Node for destiny, and Uranus for surprises. So in the sky, we see probably the why of his win, If it does help you to take a look at this election, why not? Let's just move ahead to our Venus star point chart. And I have that saved in the back end. So let me just get rid of that annotation, and we'll clear that story because it's in the way, clear my drawings. And let's change the chart up to what? to the Venus star point on the other side. Around the chart of Donald Trump is the Venus star point. And you can see here that here we have his sky, the same as always. The guy's got, Regulus, the star of little king on his ascendant with the downfall from pride and arrogance that comes with it. But that's who he is with Mars, the win-lose temperament. But anyway, back to the top of the sky on this particular Venus star point of June the 4th, we will see the following themes play out, just in case you think that he may or may not win. The star point is at 14 degrees, technically around 29 minutes, I believe, of Gemini. And where is Mercury? In domicile, in his home kingdom, with lucky King Jupiter, prosperity, luck, wealth and prosperity, kingship, etc. And that combination of planets is right up here with his sun, which represents his birthday, of course, but his career. And in fact, his birthday is coming up a week later. It's literally on the cusp of his birthday. And when this Venus star point unfolds as an evening star, as is his natal Venus, you can see the sun is here and Venus is this side of the sun. Can you see my cursor? This side of the sun makes it into a Venus morning star. So basically, we have a president of the United States born with a Venus evening star, and we have a Venus evening star on June the 14th, and it's still in play all the way through next April when we have another conjunction in Aries at 2 degrees of Aries, if you want to know, retrograde. That's a big deal. And we can also note that in this particular piece of the sky, he's got a lucky stellium in the house where his career gains and reputation extensions go from the midheaven. And what's on the midheaven but Uranus? Is that good or is that bad? Well, there's an exalted moon up there, guys, and I can't say that it's necessarily bad. However, I do believe he will have a female running mate, and I think the exalted moon may represent a very liked or lovable or popular or strong female co-candidate. And the shock and awe surprise perhaps may not just be that he wins, because I think that's what people are expecting these days with Biden's numbers so low in the public appeal and popular appeal, if he even makes it to the election. But also maybe that female energy of the moon represents his dream female running mate. I've heard that Tulsi Gabbard is in his eyesight and that she is also putting her hand up saying, pick me. I actually don't mind Tulsi Gabbard. I like her. She's more of a libertarian free thinker kind of vibe, I think. She seems quite smart. She was a soldier. I don't like any of the United States politicians right now in terms of their position on the situation in the Middle East. And she's no better or worse than any of the others, including everyone says RFK. Well, I mean, the guy's a complete, full-on Zionist, it seems. So yeah, nobody to me is good in that regard. But I mean, an exalted moon at the top of the sky, why not? And that exalted moon up there, is that his running mate? Well, let's see, because there's another way to tell. Sorry, I got sidetracked into politics, but we had promised we're going to do your sign. I promise. But, this is what interests me. I put Juno in because it can represent marriage. You're married to your running mate, right? President, vice president. It's an agreement for two people to come together. So at the time of the star point, right, baking in this energy around Donald Trump's election that comes up in the fall, you can see that the exalted moon on his midheaven, everyone witnesses you at the high noon of the sky, that exalted moon energy is also in a flow to Juno, the goddess of contractual agreements, vows, and marriages, including business partnerships like a vice president, president. So yes, I'm going with the running mate is a female. And I think he powers up the female vote, probably crosses independents into his land because they like her. I think he's just going to kill it. I think it could be a shock and awe win, actually, which wouldn't surprise me anyway, but Uranus may surprise other people. Anything else I'd say about this? What kind of moon is that, guys? There's the moon coming in. Okay. It's balsamic. It is a balsamic moon. It's approaching the sun within 30 degrees, 29 degrees. So a balsamic moon is a wise old moon, kind of witchy, kind of sage-like, kind of mysterious. Just an interesting moon that's getting kind of baked into the star point. It could represent a political figure, female, who's been around for a long time, but I don't think there will be an old running mate. but I'm not sure why the moon is balsamic. That's just fascinating. All right, so let's get out of that story, and we're going to get ready to do your sign very shortly. And what we want to talk about next is the following things. Who is born with a Venus star point? Do you guys know? Venus Williams, the tennis player, was born on the day of a Venus star point. Did you know that she was named Venus Ebony Star Williams by her parents? Like, really? Venus Ebony Star, and she was born on a Venus star point. She's Gemini, the twins. Very close to her sister Serena. She's the older sister. They play tennis together. They supported each other. They competed, but they, worked hand in hand. It's like the mortal and immortal twin, Venus and Serena Williams. Dan Brown, who wrote the Da Vinci Code, which is about the divine feminine, the mysterious five-pointed star. All of the stuff that's in the Da Vinci Code literally is emblematic of the mysteries of Venus. By the way, Venus is connected to 40 days and 40 nights in the desert, 40 days. Noah was in his ark. There's so many different biblical and other cultural references to the sacred number 40. And it's because she takes 40 days to retrograde when she's in retrogradation every 2 years. And so that is an interesting little tidbit for you. And also, who else was there? Did I write anybody else down? I did write Dan Brown. I did write down Venus Williams. That's all I have. I thought I wrote more down, but there's some really cool people born with the Venus star point in the sign of Gemini. Of course, you have to be born after 1965, unless we go back, a couple 150 years earlier, and we would have found people from another era. So I'm just talking about our modern era. Okay, so we're now rolling into your sign. Don't forget, your sun sign will be the most accurate, and then your moon sign will be next. I am going to share the screen again so I can roll us through the picture together. Where'd it go? So it's interesting. Now I can see the screen. It's like I've got a second person in the room called my Fathom note taker. Can you guys see that? I have no idea why it's on, and I have no idea how to get rid of it. It's going to drive me nuts. Okay, so move Donald out. If you're in the live premiere and you're watching and you're one of my regulars, thank you so very, very much. You guys are so amazing. Psychic readings with Rose, Crystalline Alchemist, and Serge LaBelle, and Steve the Jupiterian, Misbehaving, and Michael Thrash, and Herbal Empress, and more. Thank you for being a part of my team, always in the premieres with me, asking questions, commenting, and getting to know me and others in the chat box. If you're in the replay and you don't know what I'm talking about, I try to come to almost all of the premieres. These videos are pre-recorded, and then you get them on YouTube, but I'm chatting about it as it plays live. Just so you know, I'm recording on Tuesday, the 21st of May. This is for my Patreon community who gets this early access ad-free content. If you like that kind of thing, check out my Patreon community, patreon.com/lunatic astrology, or the link is in my description box. You can come aboard and enjoy the fun, where we have a smaller community, up to 3 Zoom meetings a month. And I'm giving away a prize of Chiron, the Key to Purpose, and Synastry, Are You My Person relationship courses, valued at $44. And you get it for free just for trying me out. If you don't like the place you're in, you can leave, even for the cheapest $5 investment, and you get to keep the courses. Okay, so it's just an ethical bribe. Okay, Venus star point chart. Here we have it. Now, I had the midheaven and ascendant in there for Donald Trump. Let's get rid of it. Your midheaven, ascendant, descendant axis is just a geographical factor. It depends on where you live in the world, and we're not going to use it here. Okay, we're just not. I'll put some of the minor asteroids in here. Why not? Just for fun. And let's come back. Okay. Okay, so that's a few comments about the Venus star point, and then we're going to move into your sign. Let me give you my annotation button for what I'm doing so you can see better what I'm talking about. It's cued for well, we could cue it better. We can make it an Aries cue. Give me a minute. All right, there we go. What can you do with the Venus star point on June the 4th? What can you use it for? You can write an email, phone call, start a book, send a message to someone important, have a conversation that's important to you. You can launch a website, sign a contract for something. It's good energy, okay? And you can bake it in like an inception point to something you wish to do. I mean, a first date on a Venus star point, it could be quite a magical relationship. Qualifier. Venus is invisible. Venus is invisible till about July the 9th. What does this mean for us? And why is she invisible? She's going into the heart of the sun. And every time she's star point, she's going to be invisible. So Venus coming into the heart of the sun means that she will be burning up in the sun's beams. And then she hits like the eye of the hurricane, this precious spot on June the 4th. Now it's around 14 degrees and 29 minutes. This is a bit before then. I do believe it's going to be a couple hours after this. I've got it at 2:30 a.m. in Vancouver, Canada on the 4th. I think it's going to be closer, if my memory serves me, to 7:30 a.m. that day. I might be able to fix that, but I don't think it's that important. Just know that on June the 4th, depends on your time zone. I'll try to get it exact, just so you guys want to do astrological magic. Some of you do make a talisman that day, do a spell, that kind of thing. Okay, 14 degrees and 27 minutes is her star point at June the 4th, 2024 at 7:42 a.m. Pacific Daily Time. You want to get her outside the other end of that, ideally, for the inception of magic. She's going to be conjunct at 1427, 1428, 1429, 1430. And then she starts to move away at 1433 from the sun. So by the time you get to like 9:42, let's say 10 a.m. Pacific Daily Time, just for your time zone, you're going to see Venus coming to the other side of the sun. So that's more auspicious to do magic, talismans, sacred objects, spells, vision boards, because, see, Venus is still dying, right? She's still going into more incineration until that point. Now she's leaving the incineration point of her rebirth, and she's coming out the other side. So now she's moving away from that. So I wouldn't start something as she goes into that in terms of magical talismanic efforts. Humbly, I wouldn't do it that way. Second of all, Venus is here. Let's just keep it at this June 4th at around like 9:30 a.m. kind of thing in Vancouver. Venus here at 14 degrees. You will notice is a well accompanied. As I said, since 1965, there's been the fortune of Venus star points all being midwifed by Mercury, the Lord of the sign, in the sign of his kingdom, Gemini. This is auspicious in the sense that he tells Venus what to do. He watches her rebirth. He gives her some guidance and instruction. He caretakes the situation. It's like he's midwifing a birth in his home kingdom of the planet Venus. Then there's Jupiter, the greater benefic. He's only here every 12 years. Therefore, since 1965 to now, and you had every 12 years, there have only been a few star points in which Jupiter was in attendance. So think of it that way. It's also got some rarity. And I bet everyone's wondering how many times Jupiter was here. I'll do another video for my week ahead, and I'll talk about what dates that Jupiter was actually in attendance with Venus and Mercury in the star point. I'll leave that for my Monday week ahead video, the week of like June the 2nd. It comes out on Monday. Now, other things I would say here. What else is Venus doing as she comes into the heart of the sun? What is her communication style with other people? Because that's what we're going to focus on when we talk about your sign. So as we see, she's here. She's been midwifed by Mercury, who's in his domicile, and he's in forward motion. And that's important. And there's jolly Jupiter, Santa Claus, fairy godfather, hanging in the house of good spirit, which is the house of, forget the house. That's just for Leos. Never mind. Hanging out in Gemini. Jupiter in Gemini is debilitated just because it's a sign of the mercurial details and the fine print that belongs to Mercury. And Mercury has a oppositional, difficult relationship with Jupiter in ancient Greece anyway. In the mythology, they're often, not the best of friends. And so bottom line is Mercury has got the strength in this part of the chart, not Jupiter. Jupiter would rather be hanging out across the way in his home kingdom of Sag, which he's not able to do. We call that being exiled from his home kingdom, just like you'd be exiled from your own country. So he's not in great shape here. So we just say he's a better influence than not. Let's call it that. So the other thing I want to say about this Venus star point is she has some conversations in the sky with other celestial bodies that should give us a temperament for what she's up to. One, she's in a conversation with Saturn. In fact, she's moving into that conversation with Saturn. She's not quite there She's at 14, Saturn is at 18, but a couple of days later, 3 or 4 days after the star point, she'll be chatting with Saturn. That means that she's going to infuse the star point from her deep invisibility, not visible till June the 9th. She's going to, around that time, depends on where you live, she's going to infuse the star point, right, with the energy of what Saturn is all about. I like that Saturn is in Pisces, because Pisces is a sign that is her exaltation place. So she has an affinity for what goes on there, and that might give her an upper hand when it comes to dealing with stodgy Saturn, boundary Saturn, border Saturn. Okay, might give her a better handle on it in some way. Jupiter is the Lord of Pisces, and he's also going to try to tell Saturn what to do. Basically, Venus and Jupiter will be trying to tell Saturn what to do, but Saturn is in what we call a superior aspect. He's moving this way and therefore facing or going toward Venus energetically. So that's also giving him some strength. And what else is she talking to? Who is she in a convo with? She's in a conversation with the goddess of committed love and marriage, divorce, unions that one must persevere in, and vows. I see Juno act like business partnership agreements, contractual agreements, marriage, separation, divorce, and union. I've also seen her look like the goddess Juno, who is technically the wife of Zeus, right over here, squaring the wife, her husband. I've also seen her look like symbols of running mates in presidential, vice presidential context from other elections, especially if it's a king and queen or man and woman type of vibe. But in all of them, nonetheless, someone has to play the femme, right? What else can we say here? Everything about this is about mutability. And what do I mean by that? The signs in which Saturn is sitting and Venus is star pointing and Juno, the asteroid, is sitting are all mutable signs. That means they're flexible, adaptable, fickle and changeable. And the thing about mutability is it's actually stronger when things are not bound by like fixed energy, like the Taurus and the fixed signs. It's sort of like the adaptability, fluidity, and flexibility of mutability is its strength. It's like Gumby from the old Gumby and Pokey, but it's also frustrating because when you're trying to do something, the ground is always shifting, things are always changing. It's about adaptability and resilience in some ways, but also flexibility and willingness to make changes along the way. So keep that in mind as well. You know, when you shoot an arrow, it's going to be on a trajectory. It's going to hit a dartboard, and it's not going to waver from where it's going, supposedly, right? Supposedly, because Sagittarius is a sign of arrows, but things do waver because maybe there's a breeze, maybe there's a bird, maybe there's a butterfly effect. So the wavering nature of reality it's not a straight line with mutability. It zigzags. In the world at large, this is also creating a Venus star point that is forming what we call a T-square. Now we've got other little elements in here that I'm going to take out of the picture in a minute. We don't need to see Athena or the Vestal Flame or Ceres. They're really not doing much at all regarding what's happening in the Venus star point. The only asteroid we need to focus on is Juno. It is interesting to see the exalted moon, of course, at the top of the sky with Uranus on Donald Trump's midheaven. Remember, Trump's MC's up here at about 24 degrees. So actually the star point, the time of the star point, I realize now, is almost exact, that we have Uranus and the moon on his midheaven. So this T-square is about something that feels difficult between Juno and Saturn that must be released through the mechanism of Venus. And we're going to talk about that for your sign, because Saturn is about stability, perseverance, endurance, concrete structures, and boundaries, and wisdom and sage-like wisdom. But also Juno is about that perseverant, long-suffering, committed energy where you don't want to give up and you're going to hang in there. But when you see Juno, you can also see jealousy and possessiveness and the darker side of love, because of course the wife of Jupiter, Hera, was extremely possessive and jealous. She had good reason to. Her husband philandered, but nonetheless, we have that element, but we also have where we see Juno, we see becoming together, like and married, and we also see coming apart energies in longer term love stories. And Venus is a love story goddess. Now, one more thing I want to say before we do your sign. Juno in the sign of Virgo, okay? She's in an earth sign, it's grounded, but it's tangible things in the world. Guess what's tangible? Currencies and monies. Now, Taurus is a connection to that as well. And Venus isn't there. Nobody's in Taurus. However, Juno also has another symbol, another name in the ancient tradition called Moneta. She was the goddess of money or coinage. And I would say there's some possibility there's going to be some difficulties, repression, suppression around economic matters to do with the value of the dollar, the US dollar, or in general, the economy. And with that kind of energy playing out in this Venus evening star point running through the next 9 months till March and also running through the next 4 years, I'm expecting this to be symbolic of economic hardship, maybe a weakening of the US dollar, perhaps a move away from the gold standard. We'll see. I mean, we do have Pluto for the first time ever in a Venus star point story in a whole sign flow to Venus, a whole sign trine. And this is a new story that we're going to experience with Venus star points over the next few years, 20 years, is that Pluto will be in a whole sign flow to where Venus is being born again. Alrighty, anything else I would say about this before we go ahead and do the all signs? The United States of America is a Sagittarius rising. Did you know that a Sagittarius rising is very common right now in our world, that the Israeli prime minister, anyway, Netanyahu is I should know that, is a Sag rising, and the United States of America is a Sag rising, and Joe Biden is a Sag rising. So if I was to show you the Venus star point from the perspective of Sag rising, that's the last thing I'm going to do before we go ahead and do your sign. Hang on. There's a Sag rising perspective. This means that everything happening here, which happened again in 2016 and 2020, and go back before that, 2012 and 2008, around June, every 4 years behind us, that it was always happening in the opposite house of the ascendant of the United States. The opposite house of the ascendant is a representation of the open enemies and the adversaries of either Biden, Netanyahu, or the USA, right? These all have risings here. United States rising degree is 12 degrees of Sagittarius. The star point is 14. Don't forget in 2020, it was 13. So that means we're moving down towards the ascendant degree of the United States of America and the descendant degree of the United States of America. So just so you know, the next Venus star point will be happening here in the sign of Gemini I thought I had it written down, but I'm going to tell you because it's pretty close to the exact ascendant descendant degree of the US United States Sibley natal chart. Here we go. Hang on, guys. The next star point degree is going to happen in 2028 at 11 Gemini, 11 and a half degrees of Gemini, and on June 2nd of 2032 at 12 degrees and a half of Gemini. Technically, they're all close enough. 14 degrees on this star point, right? From a 12 degrees and change ascendant or descendant axis. But I would argue that the morning star at 11 and a half degrees of Gemini, and then the evening star at 12 and a half degrees of Gemini in 2028 and 2032 are critical turning points for the United States of America, who is actually having, of course, as we know, a Pluto return aftermath. Okay, Pluto returns for the fall of the French Revolution, fall of empires, fall of the Roman Empire twice, Pluto return energy. Every 250 years, nations go through a potential fall thanks to the Pluto return in their natal chart. Okay, so if this is the house of open enemies for Joe Biden, and we see a Venus star point with Jupiter here, does that mean he will lose the election? That's what I'm asking you? Well, not necessarily, but having Jupiter here confers advantage to an opponent. Same for Netanyahu. Having Jupiter in the 7th house confers an advantage to the opponent. Jupiter represents justice, cosmic order, fairness, goodness. Okay, so keep all of that in mind. When I say justice, I mean like justice. Yes, like ICC, ICJ, justice. Donald Trump is going through a bunch of justice stuff, right? But so could Biden because of the Hunter laptop stuff, who knows? So justice stories are playing out as open enemies. Okay, so justice is an open enemy for Netanyahu. Justice is an open enemy for Biden. Justice is an open enemy for the United States. That doesn't sound too positive. Let's just say, Jupiter was not star pointing with Venus in 2020 or 2016, so we cannot compare the notes here in terms of what the temperament is regarding the election and compare it to those times. There's something different happening. A reminder before we do all signs, you're going to feel this energy playing out most acutely until April, but then it ruffles through for 4 years until 2028. So keep that in mind. And anything else I want to tell you, because we're going to get going. If this is a chart of the United States of America and Juno, the wife of Jupiter, is at the top of the sky, what could that mean? What could it mean that Juno is up here? Okay. Oh, my annotation is not working. Well, I don't know why. There she is, but my annotate doesn't work. It was just working a minute ago. How weird is that? Okay, not to worry then. Juno is at the top of the sky, and she represents that kind of partnership energy, and she's visible in the 10th house of the United States of America. And she is flowing to her husband. She's squaring her husband, Jupiter, but that is the king and queen of Mount Olympus. I have no idea how to interpret this. I really don't. It could be that a female is going to lead the United States. The queen, the wife of Jupiter, Hera Juno, is at the top of the sky. And what does that mean? It's a good question, guys. If you have any thoughts in the comments, what do you think Juno's doing in this Venus star point in the United States of America's 10th house of governmental leadership and the party in office? The T-square with Saturn, it's going to be the oppositional party to the ruling party. Saturn would represent the Republican Party before this election starts. Juno could represent, maybe she's in the house of the party that is in power, the 10th house, which is the Democrats. There's a showdown between these two planets, and then they're all in a T-square to the star point. Having Uranus exalted moon flowing to Juno, again, an exalted female in office. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not a vice presidential candidate. Maybe if somehow, some way, some miracle way, a female is running for the presidency. I don't know how that can happen, but we'll see. All right, let's go ahead and do all signs. We're going to start off with the Aries, and then we're going to keep going, and let's roll through to each sign. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. It does help the channel grow. If you guys like me, the algorithm likes me. If the algorithm likes me, I like me. No, if the algorithm likes me, then the channel is shared more widely. And when it's shared more widely, then I am growing my business here, my ad revenue and my reach and stuff. Okay, so here we have the Venus star point. Oh, yeah. Oh, goodness, I didn't really want it to be at 15 degrees. I'm back by a day. It's really starting at 14 on June 4th. Oh, I see what it's doing. Give me a minute. Okay, sorry guys. This is just because I made it a static chart and it won't advance. So my mistake. I need to get it into this kind of mode. All right. Don't fixate on the exact degree in this chart today. It's at 14.5 degrees basically of Gemini on June the 4th, 2024. So Venus star points at the top of the sky. Oops. And then we're going to move into Aries. Oh, for some reason, one of the things I like least about being an astrologer is exactly what you're seeing me trying to do, navigate the software. Who would have thunk it? I just want to stay on June 4th. And what we're doing is rotating the sky so that we have the rising degree look like Aries. So when we're going through this online together, you'll see that anytime someone comes onto live, we go, oh, what sign are we on? Look here. What sign is symbolically on the left side of the screen from your vantage point? That is called the rising sign. Okay, so Aries, sun, moon, and rising sign. What happens is a star point is emerging in your third house, and you haven't seen this since way back in 2020 and 2016 and every 4 years before that. However, this time we have a more positive version than both of those. Venus is becoming that morning star, and she's accompanied by the domicile lord Mercury. In essence, what can you expect? Certainly, you can expect to reduce your tensions. Okay, let's fix this guy. You can expect to dramatically reduce your tensions when it comes to matters of health, work, and 12th house self-undoing, addictions, and self-sabotage. This is an axis of contrast between Saturn and Juno, and you're looking at the possibility here of you being able to resolve something because of what Venus can offer you in the months that follow, especially through until the Aries star point in March. That's the red carpet rollout. And the question I'd say is, how can you resolve something between work and health matters, between self-sabotage and self-undoing, between contracts and agreements that are rentals, or even obligations you have that are contractual? You've taken some vows in an employment place. You've taken some vows with a rental contract for a home. And you're having this kind of Saturnian glare from the Pisces part of the sky. Saturn's not really excited about this whole thing. Well, Venus is kind of making some changes in your neighborhood. First of all, if this is at a rental contract situation, you could very well expect by next March a significant neighborhood change. If it's about a pet, maybe you're going to get a pet out of this. Maybe you've wanted a pet and you can get one in the local pet shop, okay, or an online breeder. Also, though, the third house can represent other people. Those are your younger sibling, your nieces, nephews, cousins, maybe aunts and uncles, just the extended network of your local fam, the kin tribe, but also your friends from childhood, people you see on the daily in the daily part of your life. That is about to have a shift. Some of you may end up traveling off this star point quite a lot over the next 9 months until next March, right? The travel may be big time on your agenda, but also learning. And when I see Jupiter and Mercury here, both of those planets can be about the mind, intellect, study, education. And it looks like some of you may be learning something. Now, you may be going back to school, but it won't be university. It'll be something like skills-based learning, something you can really use. You also might be teaching if you're a teacher, because you could be a skills-based instructor over the next 9 months and be very successful at it. I have an Aries sun and moon. I'll be teaching Sky Reader 5.0, fifth time I've taught this class this fall in September. That's a classic element of probably doing really well in teaching classes or traveling quite a bit. Yeah, the Venus star point can red carpet rollout, right? That's what she does in your third house, a red carpet rollout in the 9 months that follow. Some interestingly positive things to do in general with powering up your financial gains from your career because of Pluto in your 11th. And you may expect through third house means, online world, social media platforms, teaching, writing, speaking, that you can power up your success, both financially and in your reputation, thanks to Pluto in your 11th house. A quick note to file is that Venus is the ruling planet of, or the owner of the real estate of, okay? And we're not going to talk about Taurus, even though she owns Taurus, which is your earnings house. And you could argue that your earnings will increase through your social media, online, all that stuff. But we're also going to talk about her Libra story as well, because Libra is a place she witnesses and flows to easily in this Venus star point. And so she can bring you extra special good things when it comes to your marketplace, audience, clients, significant love and marriage partners, and business partnerships as well in the first 9 months, especially. And if you go back to 2016, and this is always the same time of year, June, and you go back to 2020, say June, and you look at what happened in the 9 months that followed regarding audience, marketplace, clients, and significant love relationships, you might be able to connect the dots, reminding yourself, if you listen to the earlier part, Mercury was not in attendance and it made it a little bit more difficult. Okay, I'll use me as a quick example for my sun, which is my career. The star point of June of 2020, add 9 months, was the very beginning of the very first time that my YouTube channel, which I started in 2019, began to get some real traction in the audience and marketplace part of my sky, the 7th house. All right, so there is a good example. And let's see, anything else I want to tell you? Nope, we're going to move on to the next sign. Well, before I do, reminding you, Aries, that you get a star point not seen in 4 years coming up next spring on what is the date? Oh, it's at 2 degrees of Aries in March. I didn't write the date down, but next March, 2 degrees of Aries. If you have a sun, moon, or rising near 2 degrees, star point is on you. And that's an energy that really plays out through your sky, our sky. My Mercury's at 2 degrees of Aries. Oh, I'll let you know what happens. Get ready for that. All right, Taurus, sun, moon, and rising sign. What happens is a star point is opened up courtesy of Venus, the goddess of beauty, love, and friendliness, not seen since, June of 2020, and before that, June of 2016. The star point is activating your money and earnings and resources house. This is positive. Venus is doing this under the direction of Mercury. And the simple message for you guys is, over the next 9 months, in general, most of you will experience positive developments regarding your financial savings, resources, and assets, and plentiful means to be thriving and surviving in this world. Possibly with Jupiter as the owner of the 8th house in this star point, some of that is inheritance money or money shared with a very successful outcome for your spouse, for example. That said, as Venus is star pointing in your 2nd house, and creating something positive in your earnings, she's also able to help you with your face and make you more beautiful, or with things to do with your food style and what you eat and ingest. And because she sextiles Mars, the god of quitting in the house of addictions, I want to encourage all of you Taurians that this is a star point that allows you to let go of and release any addictions, bad habits, and patterns that have been under your skin for too long. And if you don't even know how to, don't worry. It looks like between this star point and probably March, you'll be able to let it go. What I think I want to note here is that you're powering up in your career, especially because, of course, Pluto in the top of the sky is talking to you all about your career stories and your reputation. And that's where a lot of that energy of the financial success is coming from. With your square energy of Venus squaring Saturn, squaring Juno, making this a T-square, you may have to make some critical turning point energies with actions and decisions in the next 9 months regarding the themes of the hardship you may have experienced. Let me just stop the share. Something really weird happened. The Fathom note taker just stopped taking notes. It just disappeared. Thank God. Thank God. This thing was driving me nuts. I'm really hoping when I play this video back that I actually can see me and it's not this thing they call it the note taker. I don't know why it was there. I don't know why it wouldn't go away. I'm just glad it is gone. I just saw this thing flash on my screen. I'm like, what? When I was recording earlier, I could just see a little version of me at the very top of the corner. I couldn't tell if my head was even in the screen. Let's get done with this, guys. Okay, that was so weird. I took a little water break. Now I'm back. Okay. So Taurus, I do think that you're going to also have to square away something here when it comes to fertility, pregnancy, children, entrepreneurial businesses, but also agreements and vows and contracts in romantic love. And there's a bit of a tension here between things going on in your career and the great gains of your career, or even within your larger social groups and circles, and something to do with a commitment to a child or a vow or a contractual agreement with a child or with a partner, a romantic partner. And this tension is something that Venus wants to square away and get rid of by outpicturing it as a positive outcome when it comes to finances. So maybe you have a child who's a burden financially, and you're going to be able to attempt to resolve that positively in the next few months between now and March. Or a romantic situation is financially burdensome, and you're going to resolve that as well. Or there's a push-pull between your fun, joy, play, and pleasure agreements, the 5th house, and the hard work you're doing in your work and career. That's been a real grinding tension here. And Venus is going to give you the financial resources to not have to worry so much about having to choose between enjoyment and fun and work and grinding, because Saturn grinds in the 11th house to give you greater career gains, but you are working hard. Okay, moving into the next sign. Gemini, sun, moon, and rising. Of course, it's all about you. Sun is career and purpose. Maybe moon is body and safety needs and mother figures and nest and home, whereas the rising sign is your whole story. Here we have you looking at this picture from deep within your own identity. In essence, you are having it as a feature of you being born into a new story of how this looks in your reality. You saw this in 2016 when Venus was born as an evening star. 2020, she was born again here as a morning star. And in each of those times, you want to add 9 months to see the major impact of those rebirths. She's demure, sensitive, gentle, beautiful, dreamy, Grace Kelly-ish vibe in her evening star. She is the flower attracting the bee. You are that energetic as you look at the possibility of the next 9 months. Don't go scrabbling after it. Morning star Venus is gone. She was here 2020 and she's ending now. Last 4 years, you've been going for it with gusto, getting what you want, acting like the pursuer, not the pursued. You had a very tomboy, active warrior Venus archetype. Now you have the element of the gentler, more laid back, attract and let it come to you. Your sun, I have a progressed sun, right, is how you approached your career. And if it was your moon, how you approached safety and nest matters, and your rising sign, how you approached everything. With Venus being born again and Mercury watching over, unlike in 2016 and 20, this leaves less room for things to go into the gutter, like no gutter balls allowed. There's got a lot of protection here. Jupiter, he kind of makes everything larger than life and expands it. And you could get quite large here with Venus and Jupiter. If you're a female egg bearer, you could have a pregnancy. If you're a man, your person could be pregnant. You definitely are looking at the idea of fertility on steroids, but you can be fertile with many things, ideas, projects, etc., not just one thing. Venus owns your fifth house of, right, creativity, the muse, inspiration, performing, the arts, and entrepreneurial stuff. And that flow to your fifth house will give you a lot of good things there as well, in terms of increase in fertility of those items, including some money luck, actually. Why not, right? But a good fortune from gaming as well could happen, especially with this kind of stellium star pointing. So in the 9 months that follow, some of you may know your limit, play within it, but you may gamble and win. Also, Gemini, you're getting this kind of once every 250-year flow from Pluto and a whole sign trine. This is allowing you to power up to deeper, purposeful meaning in life, the meaning of your life, to know what it is you wish to accomplish in a very powerful way. And it's also good for the worlds of book publishing, broadcasting, publications, higher educational settings. I want to mention in the star point that Jupiter also owns your seventh house of marriage and audience and marketplace. And to the best of his exiled ability, he may try to translate some of the good stuff over here. Just saying. Well, what about that T-square that we've been talking about? And what about Chiron Mars? I did mention that for the other two, I think. Let's go with Chiron Mars. There's a whole sign sort of easy kind of sextile going on to Chiron. Technically, you're really going to heal something by making changes in the way you create earnings and revenue from your work and the kinds of friends and groups of associations that you factor into your life. And some of you may heal a relationship with an elder sibling because of the star point. Again, we're looking through till March and then also the 4 years beyond this. There is a T-square as Venus squares off here with the Juno, the goddess of contractual agreements and vows and commitments in the house of home, property, land, and real estate, opposite Saturn in the 10th house of career and reputation. Possibly you may have to have some kind of turning point energies in the next 9 months where you take action decisions that favor you. And it's really how you want to balance some kind of homework tension and disagreements or tensions, basically. I mean, Juno can represent you and a partner, marriage type, in the domestic environment at odds with the grinding hard work that's going on for you in the 10th house of career. I can relate with my progressed sun. And it may be that rather than it's either or, my marriage type partners in my home or my grinding success in my career to reach the peak of my top of my castle, you can look at it as a shift of how you can open up some kind of perspective, because you're Venus, of letting all the good things come to you and not chasing after them in career or home and love matters. Technically, Saturn does rule your 8th house of mortgages, and this could indicate some kind of change of home to do with real estate transactions, including buying and selling. But things should go pretty smooth because Venus in a star point does witness the seventh house of buyers and legal contracts around purchasing, someone buying a property. So if you're trying to sell or buy, both ways, it could look really good on you over the course of the next 9 months. With Juno representing money or moneta, again, you may be able to extract some money from real estate, land, and property matters, okay? But you may also have to look at how you're going to counteract what looks like a lot of intensity and maybe heavy, burdensome energy regarding how much work you're doing or how hard the work feels. That is in your career that we are talking about. All right, Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising sign. We have this star point happening for you guys in your 12th house of addiction, self-undoing, falling away from yourself, self-sabotaging, but your inner life, your contemplative life, your navel gazing, your spiritual moksha liberation, your inner world, your psyche, your soul, like your past lives even. It's kind of a complicated, very surreal house in many ways. I had listened to an astrologer called 612 one time, the axis of magic. I like that. It's more of a positive spin. So in the axis of magic, in the 12th house, you're having a beginning all over again, like in 2016 June and 2020 June. You might want to compare like what things unfolded in your life when it came to your recovery from addiction, your spiritual life, your path of inner knowing, your memory of past lives. So you know what, all of that is okay. But I want you to think about this. If you have any desire for spiritual awakening, I want you to think about this. Would you want to have a teacher, because Jupiter represents the teacher? And some of you may be looking for that teacher, that spiritual guru, that guide in the next 4 years or in the 9 months that follow. This is a Jupiter attended rebirth of Venus as the evening star. You could also support yourself to heal some wounds in your career over the next 9 months. Some kind of critical changes need to be made here. New directions need to be taken in the career and reputation space. The eclipses are telling you that anyway, but Venus is collaborating. This is ideal if you are somebody who can make money from a foreign country, foreign shore, foreign corporation, or borderless digital revenue, and PayPal, Stripe, borderless income. If that's something that you want to do and it's connected to the Chiron Mars in the 10th house, you've got this. You've got this. You've got this. Pluto is powering you up in long-term chunky money. That includes your inheritance money, money from your spouse and with your spouse, monies that you can also get from separation in a divorce. Those things are positive in the next 4 years as well. Venus rules your 4th house of home, property, and real estate. Pluto is in the house of banks and mortgages, home equity loans, refinances. These are all very positive in the next nine months, but also over the next 4 years. The square to Saturn and the square to Juno, there's a conversation that's difficult here. What agreements, vows, and contracts have you made to a sibling younger, to something in your neighborhood or with your neighbors, to a situation involving a learning agreement? This is the axis of learning, and you might have to make a change. Jupiter is also about education and Mercury about the mind. So a change of learning direction or path, because some path you're on, especially when it comes to higher education, may feel hard, heavy, and difficult. And so some of you may be making changes in learning environments, but also changes in travel environments over the next 9 months, and of course the next 4 years. With Venus ruling your 4th house, some of you may move to a foreign shore or move back home after having moved to a foreign shore. All right, keep that in mind. All righty, now what about Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising sign? What's going on here, guys? First of all, Venus is star pointing in your 11th house, last seen in 2016 and 20 in the month of June. So here we go again. This is a lot more like 2016, as I mentioned earlier, because it's an evening star version. It's much softer. It's a healthier version than either 16 and 20 because Mercury's here. It's good news for you in your career gains. This is excellent for getting more money, raises, promotions, and doing well financially directly in relationship to your career. At the same time, you may expand your friendship groups dramatically with that Jupiter energy and take on whole new groups of friendships, socializations, and belonging. You may also prosper greatly from an elder sibling. When I look at Pluto flowing from the 7th house, some of this good things that are going on in your 11th. Also out picture to powerful transformation and rebirth in your relationship to your marriage partner or your audience and marketplace in the next 9 months. We can also point out that Mars Chiron in the 9th house have been giving you a hard time for a while, since 2019 with Chiron, about that kind of sense of finding an alignment with purpose, a meaningful life direction. And you're going to help resolve that. And you're also going to make a lot of money doing that. Like you're going to find your groove financially and in your career. The tension with Saturn in the house of inheritances, spousal money, shared resources, bank loans, mortgages, and investments. Saturn in the house of unearned chunky money, income that is not, you share with other people, other people's money, and you don't earn it directly from your day job. That money is in a harder place right now, feels constricted, feels heavy, feels Saturnian, feels realistic. And it's opposite Juno, the goddess of agreements and vows, in the 2nd house of earnings. Quite possibly some of you are going to make a sudden shocking change of direction, Uranus, in your career path, and even to the point where you could completely decide to change your career path or quit a job or leave behind some agreement regarding earnings and money and career and reputation. But at the same time, Venus wants to find you a softer, more gentler, more Jupiter in the house of his joy path of income, earnings, and cash flow and success. This is a celebrity story. If you're looking for celebrity, Venus rules your house of social media, and Leo's on a celebrity, micro-celebrity storyline will succeed. You can also have a lot of growth of friendship circles, both in your local environment and your online world over the course of the next 9 months and the course of the next 4 years as well. It is a chocolate break. This is a long video. Bear with me. I'll be right back. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. All right, let's get back to it. That was delicious. Yum. All right, chocolate saves the day, right, guys? I don't know. It's brain power. You know, you have to keep doing these videos and your brain gets depleted of sugar or something. And chocolate does the trick. Okay. June the 4th. Yeah. So we just finished up with Leo and we're moving on to the next sign. And the next sign is Virgo, sun, moon, and rising sign. So if you're a Virgo and this is your sky, which it is, this is a Venus star point last seen in 2016 and 2020 in the month of June. And over the 4 years that follow, certain things change in your Gemini sky. That is your career. That is your reputation. That is your visible actions in the world. If you're a student, people see you doing studenting. If you're a soup kitchen volunteer, that's what people see you doing. It's your visible reputation and career, in quotes. So top of the sky, big changes are coming through your career direction. Now, don't forget, you had a star point here in 2020. It was morning star. It was more warrior, aggressive. You were going for it, getting what you want, or you could have found work and career and reputation things to be very more, warrior-like, more intense. I have a daughter who's a Virgo rising, and her career has been a student since 2020 in university. But the morning star gave her the courage and chutzpah to change schools, to go to a new city, to get things done, eventually finish. So she's been warrior starring her way through finishing her student career. What you might want to think about is how in the next 6 months, in the next 9 months until next March, until next March, that you've got something going on in the part of your sky that represents an ambitious energy, more evening star, softer energy, less ambitious to get what you want and what you desire in your career. And Jupiter says lucky, and Venus and Mercury says I'm on it. So negotiating, deal making, conversing, applying for jobs, career directions are super lucky and successful in general for you over the course of the next 9 months. If you're already in a job, career space, and you know what you're doing, then things get elevated, especially with Jupiter and Sun up here. The bosses love you. You get raises or promotions. You're moving up the ladder. Jupiter Sun is up the ladder energy to the top of the sky, to the king throne. So this is good for the kind of ascension of career success, not just this next 9 months until next April, but over the next 4 years. When you think of the next 9 months, it's just like you see the lay of the land, you know what's going to happen. You see evidence of what I'm speaking of. Pluto powers up from the 6th house of work. This is an Artha house. Artha house, your work, it gets better. Venus owns your Artha 2nd house of earnings, resources, savings. That gets better. Money, work, career, savings, resources, and earnings are on the increase for most of you Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Rising folk. With the star point flowing to Chiron, a wound in the house of other people's money. If you had inheritance wounds, wounds around sharing money with your spouse or significant other, wounds about their money, wounds about things to do with, your investments, these kinds of wounds are definitely getting a healing vibe. And there's a change of direction thanks to Venus looking at that fondly. And I do want to say that your significant relationship, Saturn, which has maybe felt hard, especially since last March with Saturn here. If you have a significant relationship, your partner might have been burdened, heavy-hearted, struggling in some way, maybe bossy or maybe acting like a loner in the relationship. And you have the opposition from Saturn in the house of relationship to Juno. I've been saying this in a lot of my videos. Juno spent a long time here from retrogradation. And for the last few months, a lot of Virgos have been really trying to understand whether they want to stay or go, or whether their relationship will stay or go, whether this thing is going to work out. And if you've been single, you've been looking for a long-term committed love partner. And as Saturn moves through your 7th house until 2026, you could find someone significantly younger or older than you, or a very karmic and enduring relationship could emerge. But that Saturn opposition to Juno, the release point is Venus in the 10th house. And honestly, she's a linchpin. I just think honestly what I'm going to say, and have said honestly one more time, it's a good Jupiter word, honesty. I'm going to say that you are basically going to find that by getting engaged in a successful, prosperous career path, in a work situation that's transformatively powerful and empowering, everything else about your career stuff kind of falls. Your relationships stuff kind of falls away. You can be less concerned because you're so busy doing stuff that make you successful in the world that the problems in your significant long-term love relationship may take a back seat. That said, because Venus is the goddess of love and the 10th house can be a wedding house, and Mercury is the proposing communications guy, and Jupiter is also good for that stuff. Some of you Virgos may end up declaring to the world that you are becoming wed with some partner in your life over the course of the next 9 months or even into the next 4 years as a result of this lovely supercharged positive Venus star point in our sky starting on June the 4th. Don't forget, she's not visible until July, so none of the real goodies show up until after that, most likely. Libra, sun, moon, and rising sign. It seems like a Venus star point is happening here as she is in your 9th house, flowing to the Libra-ness of you. Yet again, ever since 1965, if you listen to my intro, this has been a story. This star point, unlike 2016 and 20, has Venus in cohabitation with the Lord of the sign, Mercury, giving it strength and dignity, and therefore better versions of 2016 and 2020 are happening. Jupiter as an element of expansion and luck to the whole story. If you're a Libra wanting to get some kind of successful prosperity and abundance in and from a foreign land, that looks really good on you. So foreign land adventures, travel, or prosperity in the next 9 months and the next 4 years are on the docket for you. And you can see a lot of excitement coming from Pluto in your 5th house of consulting work, entrepreneurial work, creative projects, and any of you who are creative and you have art projects or creative projects going, especially if they have to do with publications, including books, golden ticket for creating and publishing a most successful book in the next 4 years. A lot of momentum could happen here in the next 9 months. Guys, you talk this long and you really get more than a frog in your throat. Low water. No, I'm not a sponsor, but I might become one. Cardboard, good for the environment. And you could become a grandparent off of this in the next 9 months or 4 months, just because Pluto is flowing to Venus in the house of grandchildren. Jupiter is expanding that, and maybe even twins can be born to you as grandchildren are coming your way. You might be healing some kind of stories that have been a little bit difficult for you, woundedness in your significant relationships to your business partners, long-term love partners, clients in the marketplace. And there's the chironic wound that's being healed, not just from the eclipses, You've been feeling this chironic wound here since 2019, but more gently from Venus, as over the next few months, you can feel some kind of new vibe of positive love, love in a foreign land, love from a foreign land, love of a lifetime from a foreign land, or the ability to move that relationship into a more meaningful spiritual alignment for an existing relationship that may have been struggling. Or traveling with your main squeeze to a foreign country, if not moving there. And I say moving there, but it may not be that. But the North Node is with Chiron, and that represents the foreigner, and that's flowing to the house of significant others, from significant others to the house of your foreign places and foreign journeys and foreign visas and foreign trips. The square between Saturn in your sixth house. This is about rental contracts, pets, debts, karmic and real. And Venus is trying to help you smooth that out because there's also a square to Juno. This can be karmic contracts, obligations, but also long-term contracts, long-distance contracts and obligations with foreign entities in foreign countries. Squares are not always bad because Venus is you need to take action and make plans to do with financial prosperity with foreign entities, foreign countries, foreign places, and foreign people. For some of you, you can meet your true partner, your dream mate in a foreign land, foreign shore, just a few of you. And also, if there's anything going on in your life where you've been thinking or pondering the idea of a new rental property or a new pet, those are up in the story as well, thanks to Saturn, ruler of your fourth house in the sixth house. Critical turning point actions and decisions regarding those matters. Come on, with Venus in the ninth house, you get a Chihuahua from Mexico, or you get an import dog from the streets of Tibet, or something like that, and a rescue mission, because Neptune says, let's rescue the underprivileged animals. Some of you will take rescue animals into your home over the next 6 months, 9 months, and in the next 4 years. Ow, just hit my elbow. Oh, my mother used to say, I hit my elbows all the time. I was so gawky, I still am. And if my head wasn't screwed on, I'd lose that too. No, my mom was a good mom, I swear. All right, Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising sign. So Venus is star pointing for the first time since 2020, and before that, 2016, June, in your eighth house of chunky money. Most specifically, did you get any chunky money between 2016 and 20 and 20 and now? Because literally it's like an inheritance, for example, okay? Or if it's not an inheritance, it's money your spouse generated, or it's money you got from a tax rebate, or money you got from an investment portfolio. Now, there's been problems here. I'm not going to lie. There is a challenging energy both in 2016, evening star fighting for that money, and also Mercury not in domicile, not watching it. Same with 2020, evening star 2016, 2020 morning star fighting for it. And again, Mercury off duty. There may have been disappointments and difficulties regarding chunking money rather than successes because of these storylines in this part of your chart. So I know a Scorpio rising who went through a really difficult story to do with inheritance monies during these 8 years that we're talking about. Not a happy place. Now it's turning around. So there has been unhappy stories regarding inheritances, family of origin money. Don't worry, it's turning completely around. Pluto in the house of the family of origin, power and wealth flowing to you in the eighth house. Also good for buying stock, golds, and precious metals. Not that I think you should do that, okay? Don't take any advice from me on health or finances, but Pluto can rule things under the world, precious financial resources from under the ground, flowing to the house of investments and stock market stuff in the eighth house. But that said, it just means wealth in and from the home, from the family of origin, that kind of thing. Venus is giving you luck here, and Mercury is making sure it's all on board with no gutter balls. And then Jupiter just makes it bigger and expands it. Is a bit of a downside with Jupiter here. He does witness your house of earnings. I mean, he would have his druthers by making you richer in your kind of more of your assets, wallets, earnings, savings, resources. But he seems to be working through the house of other people's money. So significant others as well, like marriage type partners, could blow up in a good way in their financial goodness, and you get to participate and benefit as well. Because you also can see that Venus is flowing to your 12th house. Some financial success can come from foreign countries, foreign shores, corporations, and business enterprises abroad or in lands far, far away. Backroom deals and negotiations can favor you in financial agreements regarding other people's money in the next 9 months and in the next 4 years. With this tension between Saturn and the house of pregnancy, children, creativity, fun, and enjoyment, and Juno up here in your 11th house of friends and fun and allies and benefactors, there has been tension, maybe between agreements you've made with other people, an elder sibling, your larger social community, and your own sense of pressure cooker heaviness around pregnancy, fertility, children, your own children. And tension between finding the spark of fun in your life. You're having a lot of serious energy in the house of joy. And so you may be taking life very seriously, maybe suppressed sex drive, for example. And this is about to change. I mean, Venus is making critical improvements through forced action and decisions to change all of that problem area. She is in a house that can be kind of sex tantra or kinky or whatever. And you might be spicing up your sex life in the 8th house ways over the next 9 months. I mean, Saturn in the 5th house is in a money luck speculation house. Venus is a money goddess. Juno can be moneta. It's kind of a pennies from heaven vibe. Some unexpected pennies from heaven are coming through as a karmic reward that you'll feel just oh so lucky about your financial goodness for many of you over the next 9 months, for sure. Don't forget, I told in the beginning, Venus is invisible until early July. Don't expect much of this to visibly show up until after she becomes visible again. Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. Venus is star pointing on June the 4th at 14 Gemini in your 7th house of marriage. Are you single? Good luck staying that way. This is like the dream come true. For the single Sagittarius, meeting a love of a lifetime because of Jupiter making it perfect for meeting the person, especially for females looking for love. You could meet your partner in the next 9 months and even over the next 4 years, get married. Mercury stabilizes it all there. If you are doing clients markets and client outreach, you got a book, you got to reach the audience. You are a salesperson, you got to please the customers, clients. Venus and Mercury here make it exceptionally positive. You are amazingly gifted here at that audience client outreach stories, and you're going to succeed beyond your wildest dreams over the next 4 years, but also the next 6 months. In 2016, the star point didn't have that beneficence, nor did it in 2020. I described the reasons they were sort of duds in the beginning of my video. So this is your time to see some efforts at being successful in love, committed love, or how you reach the audience and marketplace, 10th house from the 10th, take off for you. You can also note that Venus is the ruler of your 11th house of great gains from your career. You can see those increase and larger social circles and friendships arising and benefits from an elder sibling in the next few months. We do not mind that Pluto's powering things up from the 3rd house, again, another sibling house, extended family, but also maybe a lot more opportunity to travel or to teach and to learn, especially connecting to audience marketplace and significant love relationship. If you're single Sagittarius and you love to travel, you are the world's citizen. Fly those friendly skies. You can note that you could be traveling quite a bit with a partner over the next 9 months if you have one, but if you don't, getting a partner through travel, a love partner, I mean. Business partnerships can be favored with Juno in the 10th house, and you could align into a contractual agreement regarding career type relationships in business and audience outreach. You're going to kind of heal some sexual wounds. Sexual healing is coming. Sexual romantic wounds have been bothering you since 2019. You've been trying to work it out. Now Chiron and Mars are flowing to the Venus sex star point. This is going to give you a passionate new relationship that's very compatible, easygoing, and friendly that allows you to heal some long-term wounds about romantic love and sexual love. There is a square. There is a difficult energy between Venus, this beautiful morning star coming into being in early July when we see her again, and Saturn and Juno. So maybe you have to make some changes that are maybe even feeling lonely, alone, sad, fearful, heavy-hearted in the home, or you've had an elder living with you, or the home life has been hard. Those are all Saturn stories, but you kind of want to make a dream come true in and from the home. And what Venus says, you need another person. Or you're waiting for me, your selected beloved. But you can also have some beautiful legal contracts to buy or sell a home under this influence, or to rent out a property, moon here. And with Saturn opposite Juno, tension between situations in your home and agreements you've made towards your public reputation and your career path are being soothed in the energy field of your seventh house. Other people coming into your life, especially women, are going to bless you over the next 9 months, and they will bring you prosperity, they will bring you joy, and they will bring you goodness. Jupiter, Venus storylines and female leaders in particular coming into your world over the next 9 months can be extremely auspicious for you. This is a long video, and oh my God, my laptop's about to die. Shoot. I'll be right back. I don't want to have to cobble this thing together. Let's get this show on the road. Oh my goodness. All right, it's down to like 1% battery. Okay. Lori, go ahead and crash the show. I think I finished with you guys, didn't I? No, I'm moving to Capricorn. Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising sign. Venus will star point, just like she did in 2016, June, 2020, June, in the sign of Gemini. And so this part of your sky happens to be your sixth house. Your sixth house is about your work, your health, your workmates, your colleagues in coworker space, your job, employer-employee relationships. It also has to do with pets and rental opportunities. To be a landlord or a leasee matters not. These energies are again activated for you, and they have been activated since 1965. So a lot of you were born into this. But here we go. Venus star point 14 degrees of Gemini on June the 4th. This energy will flow to Pluto in your second house, making the sixth house of work and the second house of assets and possessions and savings extremely positive. And with the flow to the 10th house of career and reputation, for many Capricorns, it's going to be in the next 9 months until March, when we have another star point. Venus is pregnant with the possibility of you having a new job, career opportunity enhancement. If you're in a career job opportunity thingy, it goes up, more money, more success, a better job, people you like to work with, a lucky break. And you improve your career success and your work success and your money success. If you're looking for work, it's a golden ticket over the next 9 months, starting in July, when she's visible, for you to apply for new opportunities for employment. Venus here can bring you a beautiful new pet and a gorgeous new rental place, because you've been also feeling, where's my true home, and wounded in the house of home since 2019, Capricorns. This is the wound down here. There's a soothing with a sextile from Mars, Chiron, North Node, a soothing of a wound around the home story. Now, Venus is in a house that's typically associated with rentals, but she is with the sun, who rules your house of mortgages. So buying, selling, and moving home, or renting a home, especially changing or moving your home, truly going to happen for many of you in the next 9 months. You'll be moving home, changing home, maybe buying or renting a home. This is going to be a big story for a lot of Capricorns in the next few months. And if you're a landlord, then you may rent out your home, but something like that can happen successfully with ease, grace, and goodness. Because we also see that you have a square or a difficult energy to Juno, the goddess of commitment in the house of foreign lands. This can be some commitments you've made to legal matters, book publishing contracts, or relationships with foreigners in love or business. And there's some tension here that you need to work out. And opposite, the house of short distance travel, Saturn is constraining you there, or constraint with a younger sibling, or constraint in your local neighborhood. These constraints and difficulties in the 3-9 can be educational challenges and commitments, travel, visa challenges, short and long distance travel, commitments and obligations and agreements are all kind of being squared off by this new beginning of your work house. So commitments you've made to educational settings and travel plans, to people who are like almost like a marriage, a vow with somebody. These are stressed or pressured by this energy, but Venus is trying to bring something good. So it's almost like, well, maybe we can make some critical decisions and turning points regarding work, livelihood, pets, home, move, tenancies, and rentals regarding the 9th and 3rd house matters. So with your siblings, with your significant love relationship partner, especially a third marriage, major changes are coming in the next 9 months. If any of you are looking for writing and book publishing contracts to work out, this is a turning point energy in the next 9 months, and they can go very well, much more than you imagined. I mean, there is this beautiful energy of an exalted moon baking into with Uranus, surprise, into the 5th house. And so again, there's some surprises going on for some Capricorns that may involve children or grandchildren as well, because of this exalted moon and Uranus baked into this part of the chart. But for the most part, the major stories I gave you are the ones to pay attention to. And any hardship with a sibling, that, especially if there's debt involved, somebody owes somebody money. If there's debt involved, then there's going to be resolution of debt with siblings, neighbors, or cousins, aunts, and uncles. Those kinds of things to smooth out over the next 9 months. And of course, all of these star points apply truly to the next star point 4 years from now. So over the next 4 years as well, the next star point in Gemini. Venus is not visible until early July, so everything I'm telling you about, not likely to be seen until at least after July 9th, maybe July 5th, depends on where you live, when we see Venus in the morning, in the evening sky again, as a visible planetary body. Hey, Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising. So, but Venus did star point in 2016 and 2020 under difficult conditions with Mercury not co-present, and therefore we're going to see something happen in our 5th house of romance, sexuality, children, creativity, entrepreneurship, joy, fun, play, and pleasure. I can speak to this as an Aquarius. I don't think I've had any authentic fun, play, joy, and pleasure in a deeply meaningful way since 2016, nor have I been particularly creative in a way that I would like to be as a writer and stuff. So this has been 2 star points we've all lived through in 2016 and then again in 2020 that unfolded 4-year cycles that were somewhat compromised by the sky. Okay. Indeed, the 2020 cycle was square Chiron, God, for goodness sakes. Eek. So what can you do, right? That's not an easy story. I mean, the ruler Mercury was square Chiron. In essence, you're going to find the next 9 months blossom into an incredible amount of joie de vivre, fun and joy, and authentic pleasure, and also extraordinary creativity. If you're an entrepreneur, your entrepreneurial business is blessed over the next 9 months and 4 years. If you're somebody who has a desire to have children, this combination says, yes, you or your partner will be fertile and be able to conceive and to bear a child. Venus flows to the 9th house of grandchildren, and that can be true for some of you. You may become a grandparent in the next, 9 months/4 years. Money, luck, and speculation, gambling, casinos, and lottery wins, by the way, are in your 5th house. Where's my lottery ticket? Venus says, luck, I'm in the house of my joy, she says. Jupiter says, expand it, make it big. Jackpot. Some of you, Jupiter witnesses in the 11th house, the pennies from heaven and great gains for one's career, but nonetheless, the karmic rewards, all said and done. If any sign can win some money in the 9 months that follow this Venus star point, in some unexpectedly positive way, it is going to be the Aquarians, a rising sign most likely. If you want to translate it, you're an Aquarian moon, some extraordinary luck regarding home and home nest and safety, and your sun, extraordinary luck regarding your career, Venus in the house of good fortune. But for you, Aquarius rising, just extraordinary luck, period, especially when it comes to financial success through winning or gambling. Venus is flowing to Libra, offering you again grandchildren, but also the possibility of book publishing success, academic success, success in matters to do with foreign shore travel and getaways, or even pilgrimages. And I'm going to be on a pilgrimage during this story. Venus is also looking back over at Saturn, and she's saying to Saturn, okay, guys, there's a square. Oh, let's not do the square. She's also flowing to Mars in your third house. This opens up some really sweet spots to do with love and travel, to do with children and travel, to do with romance and travel, short distance travel. This is really positive. And also Venus is saying, well, if you want to do anything to do with online world, writing projects, neighbors and neighborhood, peoples and younger siblings, all that is very thematically in a place of good fortune and blessings for you. Those people, neighbors, neighborhood, siblings, online world, social media, writing projects, that stuff is super swell in the next 9 months. And also, of course, over the next 4 years. Visible evidence in July. But the square to Saturn and Juno is intense. This is all the money axis. Saturn's been making a lot of Aquarians very serious about their money, right? Very serious about their savings, very serious about structures for saving more money, how to grow a better, bigger, more solid wallet with no holes in it. And this is what Saturn's been doing, and boundaries on your spending. And you've been learning from him. He's the Lord of your sign. He'll be like straightening away your money until 2026. But this Venus star point will overlap with that and suggest over the next 9 months and 4 months, some real critical turning points with how you handle the long-term monies, including taxes, business partnerships, incorporations, and money you share with a spouse or significant other in business or love. Those things are really important for you in the next 9 months and in the next 4 years. And there are critical decisions and turning points probably being made between July and March regarding the handling of those kinds of monies. Now, I can make a good story. You win so many millions of dollars, you don't even care about your tax rates anymore or your savings account, right? Because kind of squaring it, busting it out. But we shall see. Juno is money or moneta, and there's definitely a lot going on about handling the long-term money and the short-term money in your life as you look at the next 4 years. But I have to say, it looks positive. You can benefit financially also from your children in the next 4 years. Pluto powers up this Venus star point in a whole sign trine. You are Plutonian, you are powerful, you are transformational, you are actually reforming and reinventing yourself over the next 20 years to become a butterfly from a caterpillar, or to shed the skin that's too tight as a snake would do. And it's a process. It's not a day or event. It's a long, ongoing thing that happens for 20 years. If you're an early Aquarian, you're getting it early, like 0 to 5 degrees, it's the next 4 years. And it gets more and more down the road. Like 2040, it's your 28, 29 degree people who are getting the most brunt of this. So I think the thing is, how can you be authentically powerful and also creative, resourceful, wealthy, happy, and joyful? Experiencing the pleasures of life from a place of goodness and authentic spiritual alignment, Jupiter. That's going to be a question that you keep asking yourself, because Venus trines your Dharma house. And in the next 4 years, am I happy, joyful, creative, prosperous, and aligned with my purpose? Big questions, big answers coming for all of us Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising in the next 4 years. Thank you, Venus Star Point. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so you are Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Venus is the exaltation lord of your sign. She is star pointing in the 4th house of home, property, land, and real estate. Quite simply, all things land, home, property, and real estate, and domestic life and private life and money from mom and dad, legacy wealth is yay you, yay you. This is Jupiter making it larger than life, bigger than life, more jackpot energy. This is Venus, good luck. Beauty in the home, fun in the home, friendship in the home, decorating the home, designing in the home, painting the home. Fun in the home, women visiting the home in the next 9 months and in the next 4 years. Mercury's here to midwife this process, and he's good for home negotiations, for buying and selling real estate, because Venus flows, and so does Jupiter, to the 8th house of banks, mortgages, escrows, finance, refinancing, all very positive after the star point of June the 4th, reminding you that some of the best stuff shows up early July when she is yet again a visible planet. You didn't have such luck in 2016 or 2020 star points and the 4 years that followed. It was complicated. We had terrible conditions, like in 2020. We had a square from Mercury, the lord of the Gemini place, to Chiron. I mean, not easy, not fun, not what you expect in, a cup of happy tea. in essence, you have the possibility here to really uplift yourself in and from the home and to become bounteously happy, prosperous, and wise in and from your home. If you wanted to start a home-based business, it might be an ideal combination. Business and Jupiter, Mercury are business enterprise in the fourth house of home. So home-based businesses can be very successful for many of you. Indeed, Jupiter is at home instead of the top of the sky, where he'd be in a corporate setting or employed by somebody else. I don't want to dismiss legacy wealth. Some of you could come into some inheritance money off of this particular combination in the next 9 months or 4 years. Or money from your spouse, especially in a divorce settlement, or I hate to say a widower situation, but that could happen, or just that your spouse is doing well financially and you get some of their money as well. Keep that in mind. We do see a flow from Mars and Chiron to the Venus star point. Well, hey, why not, right? Some lucky opportunities and breaks could show up here for you when it comes to your finances. If it's connected to property, homeland, and real estate matters, you may be healing a money wound where you've not been feeling good about your savings, your wallet, your possessions, your I-havingness. I have a home, I have a car, I have. Your having qualities of life have been wounded since 2019, but with Chiron, the wound, and Mars, the game changer, flowing to the Venus star point, there's an essential energy of change here. And this kind of wound around the resources and possessions and money, assets, stuff is going to be resolved. There is some power from Pluto in the 12th, and you may benefit from real estate transactions from foreigners in foreign places, or you may benefit dramatically from some kind of real ancestral line, past life karmic grunge, clearing their grunge, especially around father figures, and how those relationships from your childhood may be now fully being revealed and healed to you in a new way. So you can no longer be burdened by them, because they may have been connected to a quality in your chart of your own self undoing, right? Even to the point where your unconscious drives around money, especially, I think I said this in another video, a lot of Pisces have money issues, like they think money is evil or something. And I'm not going to lecture you again, but any unresolved issues around prosperity and wealth can be healed at a deeper soul level, like vows of poverty taken in another life, that kind of thing, as a result of this beautiful Venus star point. Some of you may want to educate and learn from home or teach from home in the next 9 months to 4 years. That's also very positive. There is a square to Saturn and Juno. This is this energy in your marriage story. Okay, this is your business partner, marriage partner house, your 7th. This is Saturn. You're heavy, serious, realistic, maybe wise about your audience, marketplace, marriage, and business partnerships. You're looking at them through the lens of sort of sage-like wisdom, sobriety, realism. Maybe, unfortunately, sometimes with Saturn, melancholy, nostalgia, isolation and loneliness, a disconnect energy from some other people that you should be ideally partnered with, or you thought you would be anyway. And you've been dealing this up since February. I have a Pisces guy friend who just had a long-term 5-year relationship dissolve in front of his very eyes, and he's very melancholic, I'd say, a little bit about it, right? Or bitter and melancholic, or shaking his head how it ended, and feeling that heavy energy, right? And yeah, it's also realistic. And you can also make your dreams come true. You can take your visions and dreams of your life and make them real. Saturn, Neptune. And this is true right now until 2025. Neptune will begin to slide into Aries. So use it while it's here. You have this, can I make some of my visions and goals tangible and real? And you've been feeling that possibility in your sky since last March through to February of 2026. Jupiter is squaring your marriage house from the 4th house. And Venus is ruling the 8th house of shared resources with a partner in the house of death. Some of you, not a lot of you, I don't want everyone to go, oh no, I can't believe she said that, but Mars is also witnessing your 8th house. Some of you may receive money because a spouse is going to depart. Okay, hopefully you're listening to this and you're 90 years old. But some of you may receive some of that in the next 4 years. If it's not that, it can be assets and divisions in the end of a relationship. Venus is squaring the goddess of committed love in the house of marriage, and Saturn, which is you being realistic and sober-minded. Now, if you get through this without that, okay, which is a possibility, then you're making decisions and taking actions in existing marriage partnerships or forming a new one that's very sober-minded and realistic. And this love story can emerge in and from the home, close to home, near your hometown, near your home base where you grew up, or in your homeland. And that is what I'll say with that. It's kind of an either or. Either the existing relationship could be coming to a critical turning point in the next 9 months and or 4 years. Or if you're single, you might meet somebody in the home, from the home, close to home, that shares the same values you had as a child. It's almost like a fam energy. Or you meet this person really close to home. You go to take out the garbage and they're down the street. You know, you walk to the park to walk the dog and they're standing there with their dog. Really close to home. Can be some new beginnings in love for sure. For you singleton Pisces. Okay, and that's all I'm going to say. I hope that's useful. Hope this makes sense. I hope that this video isn't like 3 hours long. It feels like I've been recording forever. I was supposed to record this with Adam Ellenbus of Night Like Astrology, and he came down with not feeling he was up to it. And so we're going to reboot to doing a video together in August. So I carried the show myself. He didn't show up. And then I checked my messages. He said he couldn't make it. And I'm like, oh no. So this is Lori all by herself doing something she was going to do with Adam Ellenbus on Nightlight Astrology. Look for Adam and I doing a video together in August. We're going to regroup and rally the troops here. So I get it. I'm so overwhelmed with my own astrology. Sometimes I don't even know how. If I was invited to another channel, I'd probably fit it in. But all is well. I got the one-woman show, she carried on. Thanks everybody for listening. I'm recording on May 21st for my Patreon community. If you want this content early access ad free like they get, then this is your chance to sign up, to give me a try, check it out. Everything you want to know about me is in the description box below. Hit the more button. Courses, freebies, things I give you, things you can get for free. Cosmic Moonshine newsletter. Check it out, check it out, check it out. Mwah.